بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. Assalamu alaikum. Last week we didn't even finish half of a verse in the poem Ruh al-Adab, and I don't think that we're going to finish this verse either. we might. Okay, but it's interesting because this is the most pragmatic, the most practical of the verses, in the sense of, fasting in Ramadan and praying Taraweeh and Umrah and Hajj and these kinds of things are ways of practically wiping away the sins. But this particular verse doesn't, require a lot of inward explanation, whereas maybe the other parts of the poem might require that, but this one doesn't really require. It seems like it would be the part that is the most simplistic and straightforward. But when we delve into it, mashallah, there's many meanings and many ways that we need to sort of turn the diamond around to see its different faces. So in this, we're still continuing in the same verse as last week, which was تعمير شخص رمضان صومه ورمضان صومه وقائم فيه يمحى جرمه. And we might even continue a little bit into حج وعمرة وسر صدقة من حل مال النعمة كصدقة, but I don't think that we're going to go that far actually, because we don't want to tax people with to have to sit for too long. We're living in a time where attention spans are quite limited. So anyway, رمضان صومه وقائم فيه يمحى جرمه. So he's saying that basically the fasting in Ramadan and praying the Taraweeh at nighttime, or tahajjud, even praying after Taraweeh, are ways for the sins to be eliminated. And that these are from the greatest of the means of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's not Ramadan, and not everyone's going for Umrah, and not everyone's going for Hajj. But so how is this applicable to everyone? And I was thinking about this, and Allah knows best, but Som, it's from the same word as imsak. It means imsak, rather. Imsak means to basically withhold. So withholding. A person can withhold from speech. A person can withhold from food. A person can withhold from physical pleasure. A person can withhold from spending. So restraint might be a better word. You can restrain yourself from many things, but at the end of the day, restraining yourself from one thing as opposed to restraining yourself from another thing, there are some things that you don't have to restrain yourself from in the law, and there are some things that you must restrain yourself from in reality. And that which you have to restrain yourself from in the law is, for example, in Ramadan, there are some fasts that are obligatory. The fast of Ramadan, for example, is obligatory. And you have some fasting that if you wanted to do, it's permissible, to do them on a regular basis, in the sense of making it something that you do throughout the year. So, for example, fasting in Rajab, fasting in Sha'ban, fasting the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, the last of Dhul Hijjah, and the 10th of Muharram, right? But it's obligatory to fast in Ramadan. But for the arif, the knower of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a different kind of fasting, and that fasting is all year round. And that fasting or that restraint or that withholding is from everything that is not Allah. To that extent that Ibn al-Farid, who is a great Egyptian jurist and Sufi, he's called the Sultan al-Ashiqeen, the Sultan of the fervent lovers. He is quoted to say that in regard to this type of fasting, the out of fast from everything that is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And his fast never ends, in the sense that it's always upon him. So unlike the person who doesn't know Allah, who isn't capable of this fast, and unlike the average Muslim, or unlike the level of Islam, we don't, who's only required to fast obligatorily and on a physical level sometimes of the year, the arif has to fast continually. And the arifin who have been given great stations are those who maintain their fast. They also maintain their Hajj, because they're always in pilgrimage to Allah. But this particular section then we're talking about Ramadan. So yes, the external fasting in Ramadan does forgive sins, but there's also an internal fasting which prevents us from the most major sin. The most major sin is worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the gateway to worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is noticing other than Him in the first place. So the Sa'im al-Haqiqi, the true faster, is the Arif Billah, the one who is able to refrain or restrain himself from that which is not Allah. In regard, Ibn Farid, he said, it's not as beautiful in English at all, but he said that if the desire of other than you crosses my heart, I would consider myself out of Islam. And this is something that Shaykh Ibrahim has mentioned in his writings. This couplet from Ibn al-Farid, that if desire of other than you were to cross my heart even, I would consider myself out of Islam. And this is because his fast had broken. His fast of everything that is not Allah would have broken. And this is the Islam of the Arif Billah. The Islam of the Arif Billah is not simply, a series of rituals and crossing T's and dotting I's. Even though that is his or her goal externally, the reality that they feel inside doesn't have a month, it doesn't have a date, it doesn't have, it's obligatory, it's inside. And that obligation isn't because of keeping up with the Joneses of the Sufis, it's because of a certain emotion or a certain burning inside of them that is love. They love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much that they never want to miss an opportunity to be in His company, inwardly or outwardly. And so, like anyone who's in the state of deep love, deep and fervent love, you are sick when you don't have the one that you love close to you, or you feel sick when that person is distant from you, or you feel sick when there's an issue between you and that person, or but when someone's deeply, deeply, deeply in love, that you feel sick when you're not in the presence of the one that you love. Period. And this causes a person to not be able to see anything else. How do you know that you're in love? Your heart and your mind is preoccupied with the object that you love. That's maybe stage one. But when you are the one that you love, that's the height of love. And that's the height of abstention, that's the height of fasting. Because you even refrain from yourself, because yourself is other than Allah. And if you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that much, you'll find Him even in yourself. Because it's vacant, and that space, that vacancy has been filled with its rightful owner. So the Ibn Farabi said, if desire of anything of other than you crosses my heart, I would consider myself out of Islam. And it's interesting because it's like, well, maybe what he means to say is that even if the desire of my own self entered my heart, I would consider myself out of Islam. Because the true submission is that you don't even consider yourself. You know, some of the, if you ask the wise jurists, they will tell you that a woman who has a child and takes care of that child and looks after that child is in a state of worship. And you start to ask why. And well, part of the reason why is because she's sacrificing herself for that child. So if a woman who's taking care of her child, she's not fasting like she used to, she's not, praying salat in the nighttime like she used to, she doesn't have the sort of energy to be able to do the things that she used to do because she's spending herself, literally. She's burning oil, she's burning the candle at both ends to make sure that this child is raised properly and is raised with Islam and is raised healthy. So she's sacrificing in the name of Allah. And of course her maqam is higher than people who can't and aren't able to do that, in that sense. In other words, of course she's not lower than them because she can't go to the mawlids all night. But the secret in that perhaps is because she's literally burning herself out. And the burning of the self and the eradication of the self and going against the self. I mean, if you don't think that a mother has to go against her nafs, then you don't know anything about motherhood. They don't sleep. Oh, you think, oh well, when the baby gets a little older, they can sleep at nighttime again. Yeah, right. A woman doesn't. A mother doesn't think of herself. And it's so bad that by the time the kid gets ready to leave and go off to university or whatever, she has to figure out who she is all over again. She's been in that state of annihilation for that long. And you can say, oh, well, she's being annihilated in the creation. Yeah, maybe she's annihilated in her thanks to the one who gave her her child. And this is how she's appreciating it. She's taking care of that trust. So anyway, it seems to me that Ramadan and its fasting, it's about love. It's about love because you sacrifice for that which you love. You sacrifice for that which you love. So even though there is a month in the year in which we fast, the fast of the Arif is all year round because they're in love, and love is the elixir. Love is the champagne, the wine, the coffee, the water of the blood of the Arif is in love. It's not in the desire to achieve station. It's not in the desire to keep up with the Sufi Joneses. It's because of a burning that is in their heart for the one that they love. In that regard, if you look at the texts, there's an interesting sort of multitasked book called Al-Qutuf al-Daniyah fi Riyadi Tariq al-Tijaniya. It's a book of Ahmed ibn Shaykhan. Ahmed ibn Shaykhani. he describes what muhabba is, and he says that he quotes Junayd al-Baghdadi, and he says that what did Junayd say? He said that love is the inclination of the hearts, and that what that means is that the heart of the lover it inclines towards Allah, and it inclines towards what is for Allah, without any burden. Meaning that the person who's in love, whatever they're in love with, right? Whatever a person's heart is in love with, how do you know that that person is in love with that thing? Because they incline towards that thing, and they incline towards it, and they incline towards whatever is for it without any burden whatsoever. And so obviously that's the case with everything that a person, if you want to know what you love, you have to figure out, well, what is it that you do? What is it that you do freely? And then you figure out what it is that you love. Because people find a burden in doing things people find a burden in doing things that they don't like. So any action that you do that you find no burden in doing so, it's because you love that thing. Likewise, if you want to know how you feel about Allah, you have to check your heart about how you feel regarding the burden involved in doing something for Him, or in doing something related to. Alhamdulillah, so sorry. Yeah, what is for Him? وقال غيره, and others have said that mahabba or love is compliance, meaning obedience in what Allah has commanded, or in what the lover has commanded, and in staying away from what he has rebuked, and being happy with whatever He has judged, for example in terms of law, or whatever it is that He's destined. If you find yourself in something that you are not quite sure how you got there, but you know that it's from Allah, love is the cure there. Not understanding what the situation is, but love is the cure. Love is the answer in that particular situation, because though you may never understand why Allah destined something for you, if you know that it came from Him, your love for Him will extinguish the fire of difficulty. So the love of Allah is what gets someone through something that's difficult for them, that's been destined for them, because they know that it's from God. It's not figuring out or understanding why or to what end or whatever the reasons are for the thing destined. It's like trying to put the ocean into a thimble. You'll never be able to understand anyway. So why not relieve oneself of why not relieve oneself of that burden? And the thing is that if we find it easy, if we find ourselves constantly going into those kinds of considerations in our minds, which is troubling, then perhaps the thing that we love the most is trouble. So we have to figure out what it is that we find ourselves so easily engaged in. If it's easy for me to be positive, then I love positivity. If it's easy for me to be negative, then I love negativity. If it's easy for me to be completely complacent, then I love being complacent. You understand what I'm saying? So we can tell where we are by what we do. And if it's easy for us to bear what Allah has decreed for us, because we know it's from Him, and we love Him, so therefore whatever He decides is what we love, then we know that we love Allah. And if we are not sure, or if we find ourselves not loving Him the way that we should, meaning that we find a burden with what He has decided, then all we have to do is sit and consider where our love is going. If it's going somewhere else, then all the Adab has to do is realize there is nothing else but Him. And if there is nothing else but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the Sawm, the fasting, needs to be established. The abstention, the restraining from everything that is not Him. Then he said, he quotes Muhammad ibn Ali al-Kattani, and he said that mahabba or love is the preference of the one that preference to the beloved one. So you prefer the beloved one over oneself. And others said that love is preferring what you love for the one that you love. Love is preferring what you love for the one that you love. So in other words, love is not a selfish act. Love does not manifest in selfishness. Love manifests in altruism. Yes. Love and altruism are the same thing. Altruism means that you don't consider yourself and you consider the affairs of others. So if you love something, the sign of your loving something is that you prefer that thing over yourself. So if in a situation you find yourself considering yourself over others, then that means that you love yourself over others. You prefer yourself over other people. That's because you love yourself. But if you find yourself preferring others over yourself, then that means that you love those people more than yourself. If you find yourself preferring what Allah prefers over if you find yourself giving preference to what Allah loves, then you know that you love Allah more than anything else. But we're going to love something. It's the nature of the human heart is to love, but we have to figure out what we love. And he quotes Abu Abdullah al-Nabaji. He said that love is pleasure when it comes to the creation, and it's istihlak when it comes to the creator. I mean, istihlak is like decimation or annihilation. And he says that meaning of istihlak is that there's no portion left for you, and that there is no reason why you love there is no reason why you love the one you love. It's not because of a reason. You can't find any particular reason for it. And it doesn't, and your love is not expressed and it doesn't endure for any reason. It's not executed for any reason. In other words, there's nothing in particular that love is such that you find pleasure and joy in loving that which you love, but there is no particular reason, and there is no reason why it exists in particular, and there is no reason why it comes from you. It's executed by you. It doesn't maintain because of some reason. So in other words, if there was some kind of reason outside of the one that you loved for the love that you have, when that reason is taken away, you will no longer love what you love. That's not love. Love is that you love that thing itself, and it's not because of a reason. So there is nothing that can come or go that would cause you to stop loving what you love. You just love the object of what you love because it is. And Allah is the only thing that is. So therefore Allah is the one who deserves that kind of love. And that's the kind of love that we want to give to everything. We want to give that kind of love to everything because it's so fulfilling. And it's what the heart desires, but nothing deserves that kind of love but Allah, because everything here in this world it's a world of causes. Everything in this world is based upon some cause or other cause, or based upon some reason or another reason. This is the world of means. But Allah is outside of the means, and is outside of the reasons. And so when the heart reaches Allah and loves Him, finally the heart feels fulfilled because it can give that kind of love. The heart wants to give a irrational and unreasonable love. It wants to give that because love is irrational and unreasonable in and of itself. So if you're giving your love, your preference to creatures, and you can only do it as far as creatures can receive it, because love itself is not limited like this. Love is unlimited, and we're giving it to limited creatures. So where does that love supposed to go? Love is looking for the unlimited to give it to that thing. But how do we know when we've reached it? The love of Allah is there because we have reached the love of Allah when we know that we have an object of love whose love is not because of a reason or a purpose. It doesn't exist, nor is it sustained through a reason or through a purpose. You just love Allah because He is. And love needs to love something like that because love simply is. And when a person finally reaches that place and loves Allah as he should be loved, then that person feels peace. But until we reach that love and have that kind of um, until we have that kind of an outlet, we're frustrated by every inferior object of love. So our wives will frustrate us, our children will frustrate us, our jobs will frustrate us. All these things will frustrate us because we're trying to give an unlimited level. We're trying to give the secret of our heart, which is an unlimited supply of love, to those things which cannot receive them. Just like in the beginning, the problem with our relationship with Allah oftentimes is that we try to put the ocean into a thimble because we try to find the reasons of why He does this, that, and the other. And the truth is that you love and you accept what Allah decrees because of who He is, not because of why He's doing it or to what end. Likewise, when it comes to the creatures, we get frustrated with the love that we're trying to show them, because even if we were to fill them to the brim, it would be there's an ocean of love inside of our hearts that we're putting into a thimble, which is another person's presence, another person's life. So that ocean is supposed to pour into a bottomless container, which is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said that Suhail said that whoever loves Allah, that's life. And whoever is in love has no life himself. The meaning of that is that the meaning of that is that the one who's in love, he relishes everything that comes from the object of love, whether it's something that is typically liked or disliked. And the meaning of that person having no life is that the lover having no life is that this person he just wants to arrive to him, and he's afraid of being cut off from him, so that his life will go away. Right? So another one, whoever loves Allah, that person is actually living the life. And whoever loves Allah has no other life. The only thing that person wants is Allah, and the only thing that they're afraid of is being cut off from Him. So for them, connecting to anything else but Him is death. And and so therefore, being cut off from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is death for this person, and living in life for this person is loving Him. And the characteristic of that person loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that they're happy that they are alive in Him, and they are happy with whatever it is Allah wants to do with them, because the worst thing that could happen is them being cut off from Him, which is death. So that whatever comes to them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are happy because they are alive and they're being mentioned before Allah, and they know it's from Him. Whereas where death to them is being cut off from Him, the sign of being cut off from Allah is that you don't recognize that everything comes from Him. And I wanted to jump down to another section here where he says something tremendous. He says, وَمُحَبَّةُ اللَّهِ إِلَى الْعَبْدِ هُوَ أَنْ يُبْلِيهِ بِهِ فَلَا يَصْلُحُ لِغَيْرِهِ وَهُوَ مَعْنَى قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي وَمَعْنَى لَا يَصْلُحُ لِغَيْرِهِ أَنْ لَا يَكُونُ فِيهِ فَضْلٌ لِمُرَاقَبَةِ الأغيار ومراعاة الأحوال. And this is a very, very strong statement. It said that the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that Allah grinds him. Allah grinds this person down. This is very interesting. the sign of Allah's love for the slave. The sign of Allah's love for the slave now. Like the sign of that relationship between yourself and God is that God grinds you. He grinds you. The words from the word bala, like it means balwa rather. It's like trials. So Allah grinds you down through trials such that you're not suitable for anyone but Him. Allah grinds you down with trials such that you are not suitable for anyone but Him. So like for example, it's like having a key cut. You have a key. The key is generic, like all keys. But the lock is very specific. In order for the key, this generic sliver of metal, to be able to fit into that lock, it has to be suitable for it. The way that it will be suitable for it is that you have to grind it down appropriately. If you don't grind it, first of all, it has to be ground. The second thing is it has to be ground appropriately, very specifically, to be able to fit into the lock that is made for it, to the hole that is made for it. If in other words, there are very specific grindings and very specific pressures and very specific points that must be met in order for that sliver to be able to go into the key hole. And this, he said, and this is the meaning, وَهُوَ مَعْنَى قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي. And this is the meaning of what Allah Ta'ala said to Musa alayhi salam, and we have made you for ourselves. وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي. Sana'a means to make something. To produce, I can't think of the sana'a, like to make something, to manufacture, that's the word. And we have manufactured you for ourselves. Manufacturing is a very industrial sort of idea. And so, therefore, if Allah loves you, is a process by which He has to manufacture you so that you are only suitable for Him. A key has no purpose whatsoever except to fit into the hole that it has been ground down for. You cannot use a key for any other purpose, or it's not made for any other thing. And if you take that key and try to put it into various other holes, it will not work. So every human being who comes into this world, by way of example, is like a sliver. And yes, the world does grind them down. But the way that they have been ground down may not be appropriate or suitable for the lock, which is God's presence. So all of us are going to be ground. That's the nature of life. But being ground specifically to fit into that hole, which is the presence of Allah, that should make a person be thankful for the trials that they get. Because He's manufacturing you. He's crafting you. And why would He do that unless He has chosen you? And if He has chosen you, that means that He loves you. And that's the sign of Allah's love for you. So the sign of Allah's love for you is that He grinds you down so that you're not appropriate or suitable for anything but Himself. And the manifestation of that is that the one who has been ground does not have the surplus. They don't have the privilege, or they don't have the space to be able to consider anyone but Him. Nor are they looking after their own states. In other words, the sign that someone has been ground down appropriately to fit in the lock of Allah's presence is that they don't fit anywhere else. They don't fit anywhere else. It's only when they're thinking about God do they seem to feel like they feel a sense of usefulness and a sense of purpose. And everything else doesn't work whatsoever. There's no space for that, and they don't consider that, and they don't go towards that, much less their own conditions and their own affairs. They don't have space to be worried about themselves or their conditions or their affairs. And the sign that Allah loves someone is that maybe at a certain point that they do have that space, but He keeps grinding them down until the key fits into the lock perfectly, so that there is no space to look anywhere else, nor is there any space to consider anything else, because nothing else is suitable but Allah's presence. Just like that key might be a little bit off, might be a little bit loose, might not fit the lock perfectly, but when grounded a little bit more, it'll fit. So if a person asks, oh my God, why am I being tried so much and why do I keep having so much difficulty? It's because he's trying to grind, he is grinding you down so that you fit perfectly into the lock. And alhamdulillah, we could go into some more things to be said about the idea of abstention, of fasting, of fasting. The inward nature of fasting which is to remain, to restrain oneself from anything else. And we could talk a little bit about the tarawih and standing at nighttime. But I want to leave this here because I think this is extremely important. Point to understand. It's extremely important that when Allah loves you, He tries you, and He grinds you down so that you, who are the key, will fit into the lock perfectly. So that you're not suitable for any other lock. You're not suitable for any other space. And if you try to go to any other space, He will keep grinding you down. He'll keep grinding you down until you fit into the space that you're made for, which is Allah's presence. This is why we have trials, and this is why the people who are loved by Allah the most are always the ones who are tried the most. They're the ones who have been most ground down. وَاصْطَنَعْتُكَ لِنَفْسِي, and we have selected you, we have chosen you, we have crafted you. The word probably better is crafted. We have crafted you for ourselves. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.